Hi, my name's Wendy. I'm a reference librarian at Grandview Heights Public Library, and I'm here to do a book talk for you today. I'm going to mix it up a little bit, start with the young adult stuff rather than the stuff for the younger group. There'll be a list attached of all the titles in all the various formats. So if you are interested in one, you can just click that link and it'll take you directly to the catalog for all the books that I'm talking about. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. The first book that I'm doing today, it's not actually even out yet, so I only have a picture of the cover. I was able to get an advanced copy of this. It goes along with the movie that's coming out in May. The book actually comes out at the beginning of April, and you can already put holds on it. It's sort of a prequel to the movie Cruella, and it's called Hello, Cruel Heart. It's by Maureen Johnson. This author has several other series that have come out over the years. She's done one that's, the most recent one is called Truly Devious. It's like a mystery series. Then there's also, a series that's called Shades of London that's really good. That has kind of a paranormal feel. And then, she also writes some of the Shadowhunter stories with Cassandra Clare, and I really love those. But this book is a standalone novel. It's the story of Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians before she actually becomes Cruella. She starts out as an orphan who ends up in London, and her name is Estella. And she finds two friends, Horace and Jasper, who you might remember from 101 Dalmatians, and they are thieves. She doesn't really consider herself a thief. She steals to feed herself or to clothe herself, but she doesn't consider herself a thief. She considers herself to be a designer. She designs these fantastic outfits. She has this huge creative vision. And the story takes place in 1967 London. It's like kind of the height of like fashion. If you've ever seen any of the Austin Powers movies, think of that kind of glitz and glam sort of thing. And at one point she's stealing some fabric to make a dress, and she comes across two people who are from very, very high society, and she eventually kind of works her way in with them. She wants to be able to design their clothes, and at the same time she has this voice in her head that's telling her, they're not really her friends. They're out to get her. And it's kind of that voice that she calls Cruella, which is what she eventually becomes later on in life. But it's a very interesting story, fun. There's lots of stuff going on. And as I said, Maureen Johnson is a really good writer, really able to bring the character to life. So again, Hello, Cruel Heart by Maureen Johnson. The next book that I'm going to be talking about is also not out quite yet, but again, you can go ahead and put holds on it. I'm sure some of you have heard of the book Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. It's one of my favorite books. This is sort of a reworking of it in that Elizabeth Bennet is her father is a lawyer or a barrister in London, and she really wants to follow in his footsteps. However, at the time period, that was not something that was acceptable for women to do. Women weren't expected or to work outside the home at all. So there's a lot of prejudice towards her even considering this idea. She decides she's going to prove herself to her father, though, prove her worth, and she starts to investigate a case. The case is that of a Mr. Charles Bingley, who has been accused of murdering his brother-in-law. And there's lots of secrets there. He seems to want her help, but he doesn't. There's secrets in the family. He's not telling her everything. There's also his friend, Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy, who he's very staid. He's very correct. He doesn't think Elizabeth should be pursuing this because it's not the proper thing for a lady to do. And he also seems to have some secrets. So she's kind of wondering if, even though she's trying to find the person who actually killed Charles Bingley's brother-in-law, she's thinking maybe Bingley is the murderer, or maybe Darcy is the murderer. There's also a Mr. Collins who works for her father's firm, who is always just very squirrely, and he takes credit for work that Elizabeth does. He's racist. He's just like really a horrible person, and he has some secrets too that somehow kind of tie back into what has happened. So Elizabeth is on the track of this murderer, and she has to find out, like I said, it's a whodunit. It's a mystery. In many ways, it's very, very different from the original Pride and Prejudice, the Jane Austen story, but it still has a lot of the elements that really make that very charming, and a lot of the social customs from the time that you get to see in a starker relief than you would from something that was originally written at that time. So again, Pride and Premeditation. The author's name is Tessier Rice, and I hope you like this one. The next book that I'm going to talk about is a completely different thing. For one thing, it's already out. It came out in January. I didn't think far enough ahead to actually get a copy for myself, so I just again have the picture here. Star Wars High Republic, Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. High Republic is a newer series in the Star Wars books. It takes place about 200 years before Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, The Mandalorian, and Clone Wars, any of those things that you're used to hearing about or seeing on TV or in the movies. At this time, the Jedi Order is very powerful in the galaxy, very well respected, and the main character in this is a Padawan named Wreath, and his Jedi Master decides that he really needs to see a little bit more of the galaxy. He wants to be an archivist. He wants to kind of stay and study things in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, but his master, she thinks that he needs to see a little bit more, so she takes a posting out on the frontier. He shows up at the spaceport, meets the other Jedi that are on this, that are going to be traveling. They're going to be traveling together, and their ship doesn't show up. Instead, they get kind of switched over to this cargo hauler, which actually is maybe a smuggler too. They're not really sure. They're traveling through hyperspace, and then suddenly they are thrown out of hyperspace. Another ship, has exploded, and it has destroyed the passages that all the other ships use to travel from one place to another at the super high rates of speed. So all the other ships in the lanes have also been thrown out as well. So they're surrounded by all these people. They don't know who has also fallen victim to this and who might have caused it. They don't even know what ship it was that has exploded. It could be a ship that they have friends or family on. The star system where they've been thrown out, there is a star that's about to go supernova. So they need some protection. Their ship is not going to provide them enough protection from this. So they go to the space station. Some of the other people are smugglers. Some are, just really kind of like the dregs of the galaxy that you think of, like when you think of the Star Wars universe, like Hutts and things of that nature. Also, there's a mystery going on with the space station itself that the Jedi can feel, that there is a disturbance in the Force, to, use a phrase directly from the movie. They know that there's something evil going on there, but they don't know exactly what it is. There's also a mystery between two of the older Jedi, something that happened to both of them 25 years earlier that we learn about in kind of alternating chapters, just a little bit here and there, but we don't know entirely what's going on. So there's a lot of mystery here. There's a lot of adventure. There's also just the fact that Wreath is kind of growing up and learning about what he can do for himself, and that maybe he doesn't just want to be what he always thought he wanted. So again, Star Wars, The High Republic, Into the Dark. Claudia Gray is the author. She has a paranormal series that came out several years ago. that was called Evernight. She also has a time travel series that's called Firebird that I really enjoyed. She also has several other Star Wars novels that are set in the regular kind of Luke Skywalker Vader universe. So you might try those as well if you like this one. Into the Dark. The next book that I read, is actually nonfiction, and I read very, very little nonfiction. This one is called Spies. It's by Mark Favreau. This is basically the story of what happens directly after World War II, and then well into like the 1990s. It's kind of the fight between the United States and, at the time, the Soviet Union, and how each country was trading back spies back and forth, trying to find out what the others were doing. It's really interesting. I didn't know a lot about this era, but almost everything that you see in any kind of spy movie, whether it's James Bond or, an episode of Alias, anything like that, it has a basis in reality. Whether it's, some like a little micro dot that's put on the side of hidden on the side of a post box, or someone, a spy meeting the wife of a diplomat and giving her a box of candy that then gets switched, and she gets one with like microfilm in it so that it's passing secrets that then get passed on to the Pentagon. It's fascinating. And like I said, it goes from directly after the Second World War through to the 90s. Spies were caught on both sides. The USSR, the Soviet Union, and the United States both had advantages at different times and then lost the advantages. They lost their usually inside man, but there were actually women spies as well, they sometimes actually had a lot more success because they were unexpected. So again, I don't read much nonfiction, but I really enjoyed this, just for all the stuff that I learned that I had no idea was actually real before then. Spies by Mark Favreau. The next book, this is where we're moving into the books for sort of the younger readers. The next book is by an author that I'm sure most of you know fairly well, J.K. Rowling. This is the Ichabog. It's a fairy tale. It takes place in the magical land of Cornucopia. This was a story that she started writing many years ago, and for her kids, and she would read chapters to them each night. But then, something else came up. She decided to write a different book instead. But last year, when kind of the lockdown and coronavirus started, she decided to publish chapters of this online. And then she also had a contest for kids could send in their own illustrations. So in this US edition, all of the illustrations are sent in by children from either Canada or North America, South America, for how they have pictured the characters or the situations that occur. Basically, in this, you have the story of King Fred, and like a lot of people, he doesn't really necessarily, he's not the smartest guy, and he also really wants to be liked. I get that. A lot of people want to be liked, but he also is very much influenced by two of his friends who have less than good intentions and are basically there for themselves. They want to make money off of their friendship with him and will basically do anything up to murder to get what they want. So there's a lot of stuff that happens that isn't necessarily nice, but fairy tales are not always nice. It has the charm of most of J.K. Rowling's writing. There's little turns of phrase that you might come across that you're like, yeah, I remember that. That sounds like something that she would write. So again, it's fun. It's a fairy tale. It has some really interesting illustrations, and I did really enjoy this. So again, The Ichabog by J.K. Rowling. The last book that I'm going to talk about is one of my all-time favorite books ever. I've read it so many times over the years. The actual copy that I have here is the one that my mom got me when I was 10 years old. Fortunately, there are much more modern editions that you can read. It's Anne of Green Gables by Ella Montgomery. Anne is an 11-year-old orphan at the beginning of the book, and she shows up at a train station when Matthew and Marilla Cuthbert have decided that they want to adopt a boy to help with their farm work. Matthew and Marilla are brother and sister, and they live on a farm on Prince Edward Island called Green Gables. And Matthew gets to the railway station to pick up Anne, well, to pick up the boy, and discovers Anne sitting there. He knows he can't just leave her there, so he takes her home. Eventually Matthew and Marilla decide that Anne will stay. The thing with this is that, yes, Anne is 11 years old, so you may think, oh, that's too young. I don't want to read a story about someone that young. This book came out in 1908. It's historical fiction. I don't want to read anything that old, but so many of the stories are so charming that really they transcend time and place. It's, like I said, it's one of my all-time favorite books. I actually went to Prince Edward Island because of this book. And again, even if you're thinking that maybe this isn't really for you, I also recommend there's the series on Netflix, Anne with an E, that is based on this series of books. So maybe watch an episode of that, and then maybe that might inspire you to turn to the books as well. So, but like I said, I adore this book. And I guess that is going to be about it for today. I hope you enjoyed, that you're interested in some of the books that I've talked about, and check them out. Like I said before, you can just go to the link. It'll take you to the list of all the books and all the different formats that we have. Hopefully you'll find something that you like, and if not, tune in next week and maybe we'll have something that is more to your liking then. Have a great day. Bye-bye.